even if it's not by Bach. So, do we care? Gillian Weir?
Not in the least. No, I don't. I just like the piece. No, it's interesting, but it's not important to me. I think that, in fact, we need to learn how to listen to music very, very, very deeply to the message it has, and then make all sorts of deductions from the music. I think that scholarship has to some extent gone wrong in this in recent years, and we've separated the two so completely that we don't always hear the things that are in the music. You know, music is a language, we keep saying, don't we? But until we can speak that language perfectly instinctively, then we're not going to know really how to play it, nor are we going to be able to convey to the listener that part of the music which is totally inexplicable and not possible to be expressed in words.
I remember a museum that had a painting, a small painting, and art expert proved or suggested that it was by Bruegel, and the museum curator said, if it does turn out to be by Bruegel, it will be the most important painting on our collection. And I thought, no, that's wrong. Is it a good painting? If it's a good painting, it's an important painting in your collection, whoever painted it, even if I painted it. Yeah. So I feel whoever wrote this piece, it's worth hearing, it's worth performing. It's just, maybe it's not by Bach, but actually who cares?
Absolutely. But Christoph Wolff thinks that there is value in having the discussion at least.
Well, I think it certainly makes us ask more questions about Bach, and I think that is the best way to learn more about him. We have not asked so many questions in the past, and I think learning to ask the right questions about this difficult and great composer is one of the most important things we can do.
The trouble is, I'm not sure I do understand Bach, or his toccata, if it is his, any better. Obviously, we need to be scientific, ask questions, and be honest about the gaps in our knowledge. But every conclusion, every insight seems to be hedged around with ifs and maybes. Instead of facts, we've got theories and best guesses. Even on this, his most famous work, the experts can't agree. Are we really getting any closer to Bach, or is he becoming more elusive?
From my perspective, I find that the research that's being done on Bach and the, if you like, the stripping away of apocryphal stories and the revealing or leaving behind the things that we know to be true, I'm finding it more and more helpful. I'm thinking, for example, the work of Christoph Wolff, his fantastic biography called Bach, the Learned Musician. It didn't help me play one note of Bach in a sense, but what I mean was it took me closer to him and his time and the people he knew and his house, for example. You know, how many rooms were in his house, things like that. So I'm finding the more scientific approach to musicology in the recent years, decades, is helpful to getting to the music. But when I walk on stage with a violin, to be honest, the books I've read are the last thing I'm thinking about. I have to speak to an audience and share what I think about this piece. It's not an exercise in musicology.
And the story isn't finished yet. Even a quarter of a millennium after Bach's death, new facts and new ideas about Bach are emerging all the time.
I tell you something which I could not have told you half a year ago. We are here in the Bach Archive plowing through the Central German archives in order to collect Bach family materials. And a doctoral student of mine came across a manuscript in Weimar that we together identified as the earliest surviving manuscript of Johann Sebastian Bach. Works by other composers, but copied by the 15-year-old Bach. It uses the notational style in around 1700 that you find replicated, faithfully replicated in the D minor toccata manuscript by Johannes Ring. So you can see there is a connection on the basis of the source that makes it very difficult to take the piece away from Bach.
Perhaps this striking new evidence puts the pro-Bach camp in front for now, but it seems to me that it's just one more piece in the jigsaw rather than the killer fact that would clinch the argument once and for all. All the doubts about the toccata are still there. In 2000, Rink's copy was reproduced in facsimile for anyone to explore. In a lengthy preface, Rolf Klaus dismisses Bach and suggests Rink's own teacher, Peter Kellner, as a possible composer for the toccata. I'm not 100% convinced, and neither is Peter Williams.
Everybody who has intense experiences with Bach, if it's a singer in the St. Matthew Passion, or an organist playing this toccata, or a harpsichordist recording the well-tempered clavier, we all think we have a line of our own to this creator. We all think we have a corner on the market. We all think we understand him best. As far as I'm concerned, it's just asking a few questions and, and leaving it for people to squabble about. In my opinion, they're perfectly good questions. I have to admit, I don't see that I've seen any good explanations that have convinced me.
I think we will eventually come to some agreement. I'm quite sure, but I think affirming it as a Bach piece is one thing. Questioning it is, I think, a very valid process also. So I think we will sooner or later come to some agreement, and I know what the result is. There's only one possibility.
However scientific the process of trying to reconstruct the jigsaw, inevitably your own personal, subjective opinion becomes very important. The fewer pieces you have, the more you're relying on your own instinct or your own opinion. Similarly, you can get two violinists reading the same page of music, sounding totally different. And you can't say either of them is wrong. But isn't that a wonderful thing about this music? And that's what keeps this music alive. If there was only one way to play this music and one answer, we'd all have got bored by now. So luckily, many alternative truths can coexist, because we can't actually prove any of them are completely true, and the world is big enough to take them.
Who wrote Bach's toccata? I'd love to have arrived at a final answer, but perhaps, like the man said, it's better to travel hopefully. At least along the way we found some brand new stories to tell about Bach and about this music. Is it the story of a precociously talented teenager who literally pulled out all the stops to impress his listeners, but went on to create even greater works of art and grew up to be ashamed of these early flamboyant flourishes? Or is it a mystery story of an anonymous composer who unwittingly created one of the masterworks of the classical repertoire, but was thereafter doomed to obscurity, destined never to have his own name on the title page? I think there are important elements of truth in both of these stories, and surely this is music that deserves to have stories told about it. Whoever it was who wrote these notes, they created something extraordinary, something we can all celebrate.
Who Wrote Bach's Toccata was presented by Simon Townley and produced by Chris Taylor.